I've been doing a bit of decluttering recently, and I thought that rather than just sharing the specific items that I'm going to be getting rid of, I'd also share with you the categories for ideas where you can declutter in your own home. So if you've thought to yourself, okay, I do want to downsize, I want to simplify, but what do I actually declutter? Hopefully this video will be helpful for you as I share with you the 10 items that I will be decluttering this month to give you some ideas of things that you might not have thought about that you can get declutter in your own home. For those of you who are new, I'm Yessie. On this channel, we talk about minimalism and living a simple, fulfilling life with less. So if that topic sounds interesting to you, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, and I'd catch you here again next time. If you have any ideas of your own, be sure to share them in the comments down below so that we can all learn from each other. But do also know that this is things that I am going to be getting rid of because they're not adding value to me, or we're just not using them anymore, whatever the reason might be. I'll share those reasons with you, but just so you know, it's not things that you have to get rid of. With minimalism comes intentionality, and your intentions might be very different for the very same item that I might have. So just take it with a grain of salt. It all really applies to you and your life, the things that you value, your hobbies, and just what it is that brings you the most joy. All right, so the first category is single-use items for the multi-purpose option. And specifically in my home, one of the items that I am going to be getting rid of is a water pitcher. I had a water pitcher for a few years just because in the summertime we'd make lemonade and we make sweet teas and we would make drinks, but every other month out of the year we would just stuff it underneath the sink and it wouldn't be used. And then I came to realize that I have a big Yeti jug. I think it's like 64, 68 ounces, something like that, but it has more capacity than the water pitcher. And that Yeti jug, it has a handle. We take it hiking, we can take it camping. I don't camp, my husband does camp. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that we can use it for lots of other things rather than just having the water pitcher that is only available or that we only use summertime, and then all the other months out of the year is just stuffed underneath the cabinet. Before, I had also decluttered things like wine glasses because we didn't really drink alcohol all that much anyway, and we had wine glasses which we could really just use a mason jar for, any other glass jar for. So if you have any items that are really only serving for one specific purpose, and you have also another option which is multi-purpose that can work for that, this is a good area where you can just downsize and not really have to worry about you're not going to be able to do something, you're not going to be able to have enough cups, or whatever the item might be. And this doesn't even just has to apply to kitchen. So for example, I don't have a bathing suit. What I use as my bathing suit is my workout top and my workout shorts, which I also use as pajama top or pajama top and bottom. So that to me is something that serves a multi-purpose use. I can use it to exercise in, to sleep in, to go swimming in, and I don't feel like I have to have a bathing suit because I really go to the beach maybe like once a year and I don't love to swim. So it's not something that for me is something that I need to have in my wardrobe. So you can look all throughout your home. The more you practice it, the more creative you will get. This next one is a big one for us, and it is old hobby supplies. So in this instance, what we're going to be decluttering this month is actually my husband's hobby supplies. So lately he's been getting a lot more into camping and hiking and doing things outdoors. So he's been buying some stuff for that hobby, for those hobbies. I had a conversation with him this time. I just kind of gently asked him. I didn't say you should declutter this or you should get rid of it. I didn't at all. If you have a family member that is not trying to pursue a minimalist lifestyle, I would not encourage that approach. But I did ask him, hey, so you've been having a lot more items for these other hobbies. I noticed that you haven't used your paints in years. Would you like to declutter them? Like, I just gently asked him. It was his decision. And he said yes. He has a lot of paint supplies because he used to paint a few years ago, and that was something that he really enjoyed at that time. And he hasn't touched it since then. It's been years. Our hobbies can often be very sentimental because they say something about us or to ourselves, like the ideal person that we want to be or something that we want to enjoy because it says something about us. And it was hard for him to get rid of it because it was a part of his past. But when we come to terms with the idea that the art that we created or the things that we created, they're still with us, or we can take a photo of those things if we don't want to keep that physical item anymore, then we can get rid of the actual supplies towards somebody that can use it, somebody that will enjoy it. And not to mention, getting rid of these items will also mean that you'll have more space for the new hobbies that you have. And it's not a bad thing to have shifting hobbies. I've definitely had phases in my life where I had a specific hobby and then it changed into another one and it changed into another one. And that's the beauty of life, is that we're always changing. So give yourself permission to change and grow. It's okay to adopt new hobbies and let go of the supplies for the old hobbies that no longer fit you. Old decor. For me, this is something that I love to get rid of, especially when new decor enters the home. If there is any kind of thing that I've either been gifted or that we made or that I'm going to hang up on a wall for whatever reason, I try to see what is an item that I could possibly get rid of. So in this example, I had a little box that we had our pictures in on the sides, and then we would just kind of put coins inside. But now for my kiddos, my oldest is actually starting to count and able to count money. So we got them a little box from Etsy that says give, save, spend. And this little coin box is now something that is extra. We don't really have a use for it. We'd have a multiple. So if my kiddos already have something that is fulfilling this purpose, and it's also able to separate them into categories, which we weren't able to before, now they can have that. So anytime new decor comes in, especially if it's similar to something that I already have, I try to figure out what is that other item that I like least, or again, this one isn't as multi-purpose, that I can get rid of. So trying to get rid of the least favorite, or just the item that is really just adding extra clutter but doesn't actually make you happy, doesn't actually give you joy. The next one is toys. So if you don't have kids, maybe this can also apply to pet toys, things that are unloved or unused. For me, I had a lot of toys that would cause me kind of nuisance, things that my kids wouldn't pick up and they wouldn't really play with. For me, I've realized what my kids usually play with. They love magnet tiles. They have a few other little toys that they just constantly gravitate to. I could also do toy rotation. I've heard of that as well, where you can just kind of put toys in a box or a bin or wherever and just kind of swap the toys out. I've tried that with my kids over the years, but I've noticed that they just always seem to gravitate towards the same toys. And one of the things that I've noticed in my kiddos is that they just don't really play with stuffed animals. Like, I've tried it. I actually really wanted my kids to have kind of like a little plushie or something that they would hold on to, that they would value, because I had sentimental attachments to some of them and they didn't care. They didn't care. They would just toss them somewhere. They didn't play with those things. So really just keeping the toys that they love, that I see that they're actually using on a regular basis. They didn't notice. I actually took a whole basket of their toys away one time because it was just getting on my nerves. It was getting on my nerves. They were just throwing toys everywhere and they weren't picking them up. They weren't putting them away. So I said, if you're not going to pick up your toys, I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them away for a month. And I did. And you know what? They didn't even notice. They didn't even ask for them. They didn't even cry. Like, they were actually happy. They were actually happy playing with those few toys that they had left. And they were playing in more creative ways, and they were putting their toys away, and they were so much faster to put their toys away. So anything that is causing you more anxiety in the toy department, I would heavily recommend either doing a toy rotation or doing that first, and then figuring out what other toys can you get rid of. This will save you so much stress. Outgrown stuff or things that just no longer fit. For me in this instance, it is actually like sippy cups. I'm gonna get rid of some sippy cups that my toddler has. It's something that kind of fits under that 20-20-20 rule. Like, I could replace it in less than $20 in under 20 minutes. So for me, I'm not gonna keep something for a long period of time, because even if I were to get pregnant now, by the time I were to need that, it's gonna be a while. So why not give it to somebody that may be able to use it? So I think for me, when it comes to decluttering, it's just that general, it's not a rule, but something like a guide that I follow. If I know of somebody that can use it now, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, I would rather that person get that value. And doing this has really allowed me to be able to have a more giving mindset, and it allows me to remove that scarcity mindset. I definitely wasn't a giver. I definitely always have had a scarcity mindset where I thought I'm not gonna have enough, I'm gonna need something in the future, and I'm gonna be lacking. And for me to be able to declutter in this way and think about it that way, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to use this, if I'm gonna need it. I know of somebody that can use it now, and being able to get rid of it, it is so freeing, because it has allowed me to view life in a prosperous sense. I now can remove that scarcity mindset and replace that with prosperity. I will have enough. I have enough. I am blessed. I will have my needs met. This next one is simple. Clothes that are itchy or just have finicky fabric. Sometimes we have clothes that are just kind of too tight around here, or they make us sore. Like, I used to have some sports bras that would just like dig into my shoulders and they would cause me to have pain. And then I got rid of them and I realized, why do I even have these if they're just causing me pain? Sometimes clothes just kind of itch, or they have finicky fabric. They catch lint all too often, or the way that you wash them has to be in a special way, or they just leave fuzz all over the place. Things like that. If they're causing you more nuisance, you can get rid of those and keep the ones that you love, keep the ones that are easier to wash. That's something that I personally recommend, and something that I do. Sometimes I do hand wash my clothes and I hang them up to dry, but just the fact that it has to be washed in a specific way, I'm like, no. That's too much work for me. I'd rather have simplicity. Storage bins, boxes, baskets, and just other little storage baggies and storage containers. In general, I do not recommend to immediately get rid of these things as you've decluttered, because what I tend to do is I keep them for about a month or so in order to see if there's some other way in which I can use them. So as you're decluttering, you're just going to inevitably have baskets, boxes, things that are now empty because you have nothing to put inside them. Personally, I keep them for a short time rather than just letting go of them, because as you declutter more, as you're going through other rooms in the home, you might be able to find other ways that you can use these baskets, these bins, and just kind of organize your space and make it a little bit more cohesive, just better organized. But once that time has passed, once it's been a while, and if you haven't found another use for it, I then go ahead and just get rid of it and declutter it. Because really, baskets, bins, baggies, all of those are just asking for us to put things inside them. It's like a subliminal message where it's just saying, put things inside me. I'm empty. I need something to be stuffed in here. So the more you can get rid of these, really the easier it's going to be for you to declutter or to get rid of things, because now you don't have somewhere to put them in. A lot of times the more space we have, the more things we put inside them. It just kind of comes with the territory. So I definitely would personally recommend to just keep them for a short time after you have these empty containers, because you've decluttered some, just to see if you can kind of repurpose them in some other room in some other way. But once that time has gone by and you really cannot find any other way to use it, get rid of it before you find some other way to stuff other things inside. Number 8 is oops buys. Things that you thought you were gonna love, but just really didn't end up working out for you. I have for years and years and years used waterproof mascara, and I loved the mascara that I had, but I just hated the idea of having that waterproof mascara because it's just not as good for your lashes. And then I just also didn't like that having to rub my lashes, even though I used coconut oil and it would work well. Lately, I've been trying to use less and less and less makeup, so I went to a washable mascara, and it's no good. It's no good. My lashes like fell down. Inevitably, I want to go back to my waterproof mascara that I already had, that I already loved, because I was trying to do the better thing or the healthier thing. I don't know. So that was something that I bought, I tried, it didn't work for me. Why should I keep it and just keep using it even if I hate it or if I don't like it? I can let go of it without feeling like I have to use it to the end, because that has been me all too often. Is I will go through something until I finish it just because I feel guilty of throwing it away and just wasting it, basically. So I've done this with like tea packets, for example. I tried this specific tea and I really didn't like it. Every time I was drinking it, I was gagging like, ugh, it tastes horrible. But because I bought it and I didn't want to waste it, I didn't want to throw it in the trash, I was forcing myself to drink that tea every single day until I was done. And sometimes what I would do is I would like double packet it, like put 2 packets in so that I'd finish it quicker, which made me gag even more. And I just kind of thought to myself, why am I doing this? Why? I could try to see, like my mom likes tea, maybe I'll give it to her. So just being creative with the way that you can get rid of items. Sometimes the guilt is a big deal, and it's a reason why we can't get rid of things or why we feel like we can't. So even for example, linens, you can donate linens to an animal shelter, or you can donate pans and pots and things like that to places that help battered women. It's like if you have big cases of food that you didn't like, homeless shelters are a great way. So finding the way in which you can get rid of these specific items, I think will be much better at easing that guilt so that you can just let go. This next one I think might be a little bit controversial, but it's in and out gifts. This is kind of my own spin on the 1 in, 1 out rule, but I don't give it a number, and it really applies to gifts. So I've explained in the past that gifting is not my love language. Like when I was a kid, I was whooped if I accepted gifts or if I accepted money, because I grew up poor and my parents didn't want me to feel like to think that I should want things from other people, that I should expect things from other people. They didn't want me to envy the people who had more than me and pursue my own benefit. So right or wrong, they would whoop me if I ever accepted gifts from people. And so to me, this kind of made me have a negative relationship with gifts. Anytime I would receive gifts, I would feel guilty, I would feel bad. It would not make me happy. It would absolutely have the opposite effect. And I've definitely gotten a lot better at receiving gifts. I now recognize that for me to refuse somebody's gift, to refuse being gifted things, is rejecting their expression of love. So I've gotten a lot better at receiving gifts, but that also means that I've had to have conversations with people about the kinds of gifts that I would love to get, the way that I prefer to be gifted. And that being said, if I do receive something, I no longer refuse that expression of their love, but I do try to see what item I prefer that can possibly leave my home if this item is a duplicate. So for example, my husband for Christmas, he wants to give me things, and I no longer reject that. I no longer say no, because I now can understand that it's one of the ways in which he wants to express love to me. So he bought me a couple of shirts and he bought me a skirt. So for me, now having these 2 new items, it kind of led me to think, okay, so I have these 2 new items. I love them. They're beautiful. What can I get rid of that is my least favorite? So if you have a gift that you've been given and you clearly have a duplicate that you like least, keep the one that you love the most, and then find some other way to get rid of that other one. So that way you're not having like excess, you're not having to say no to gifts, because it can also be something that makes them, it robs them of that joy of giving to you. So within minimalism, I think we have to kind of be soft in certain rules where they're not like hardcore, like never give me anything, because that's also other people's expression of love. So even with grandparents, I no longer say that they can't give my kids toys. So they do give my kids toys. But when toys come in, I do ask my children, so you've got these new toys. You have something similar. Would you like to give one away? And I did this with my daughter, for example. She has bows and she received a new bow, and I asked her, hey, you have more bows now. Would you like to give one to another child? And she herself said, yes, I don't want this brown one. And so this was something that I don't have to force anybody, and I'm not like saying you should do this. It's more of a subtle, it's more of like building that habit of I received and I've been blessed and I have things now. So how can I give back to somebody else? And last but not least is discount credit cards or store cards. So I've mentioned in my previous video, what's in my bag, that I have been using basically a little wallet, and I've been using cash. Anytime I go into the grocery store or store to buy anything. I actually also took a break off of Amazon. I did buy a lot of things off of Amazon, like on a regular basis, like our protein shakes and things like that, because sometimes Amazon can actually be cheaper than in store. And also it kind of avoids that nuisance of having to go to the store and back. But I took a break because I was noticing that because I don't have the Amazon Prime, I'd be like adding things to my cart that I maybe didn't need at that moment that I was gonna need, and maybe things would go bad, or that when I did have those like Amazon free trials, I'd be buying more things than I actually needed just because I had the Amazon Prime and it could deliver to my home. And then I'd be ending up with lots of storage boxes. So I just had a complete break off of Amazon, and I would buy things in the store with cash. And oh my goodness, the change that it had on me is awesome. I highly encourage you to try to just use cash for at least a month and see what that does to you. Not only do you avoid all these boxes and all these things, but you can buy things on your way to doing things. You have interactions with people. But what really made that biggest change is that it made me aware of where my money was going. The awareness, that's huge. When you have a specific amount of cash and you're letting go of that cash, you're like, oh, here's my hard-earned money, here you go. It makes you so much more aware of how much you have left, how much you've spent on XYZ item. And I know that we always think, or at least I used to think, well, I'm aware. I always check my bank statements. I'm always checking my cards. But really, studies has gone into this, that when you swipe a card, you do not have that same neurological effect in your brain versus when you have cash. There is something different that sparks in your brain when you swipe a card and when you use cash. You actually feel it leaving. You actually feel that pain versus just swiping the card. You don't even realize it. You don't even feel it at all. So it's making it more likely that you're going to spend more money when you're using a card. I applied this back to credit cards, and my husband and I, we had a credit card that we didn't really use all too often. And I thought, well, just having this card is making it so that we're tempted to want to use it, to take advantage, to get the points and get the rewards or whatever. And really, ultimately, I was listening to a video by Dave Ramsey. He's like, really? So if you get, let's say, $2 out of 100, you think you're like saving money, you think you're making money by spending $100. So I ultimately canceled that card. We now just have our basic cards. And I think that this has been something super helpful, actually, because it removes that temptation to spend. So that's pretty much it for this video. I really wanted to give you not only items that you can declutter in your home, but just also some actionable tips along with it, and to give you kind of the explanation of why it matters and what effect it has on our mindset. Because for me, when I started to declutter, I was not only getting rid of physical items, but I could actually see, almost like if I was decluttering things within my heart, things within my mindset that I was then able to kind of like clean inside me. I kind of had this vision, like my heart and my mind was like a house, and I was just dusting it with a broom and getting rid of all that dust and all that junk inside me, because it removes that scarcity mindset. It removes those worries, the guilt that we've been talking about throughout the video. So decluttering, it can be life-changing. For me, it definitely was. It was something that led to so many other great things that are really freeing. I think that we think stuff is going to make us happy, and sometimes they do in the short term, but stuff isn't really what makes us happy in the long term. They're not the things that are creating the memories. It's the relationships that we have. It's the things that we've done. It's those bonds that we share. So if we can just kind of remove some of that attachment from stuff and put it back where it actually matters and align our values. Are we actually living a life that aligns with that? Let's make sure that the things that we value and the things that we are doing actually align, so that we're actually living a life that brings us fulfillment and brings us joy. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you won't miss when I post a new video. If you have any recommendations for other videos that you would like to see, let me know down in the comments or send me an email. I'd love to hear from you and hear your experiences. How has your decluttering journey gone? How has it been? Are you just starting? Have you been in this minimalism journey for a while now? I'd love to hear your experience down in the comments below. Until next time, bye for now.